Imagine this, she's in her bed, years later. New apartment, new city, new man lying beside her. But she's not thinking about him. She's thinking about you. She doesn't understand why. You weren't the richest man. You didn't send flowers, recite poetry, or promise her forever. You never begged for her time. You never chased her attention. You were just there, anchored, watching, silent, mysterious. But now you're in her head, and you won't leave. Because you didn't just touch her body. You disrupted her nervous system. You created a silence in her life so loud that it echoes years after you're gone. That's the power of a Sigma male. And the one thing she will never forget, the way she could never figure you out. You weren't a puzzle. You were a riddle with no solution, and that drove her wild. While every other man tried to impress, prove, or win, you simply were. You didn't flinch when she tested you. You didn't brag. You didn't chase. You didn't try to be unforgettable. And that's exactly why you are. You weren't the storm. You were the stillness before it. And that is what women remember. Not what you gave her, but what you withheld. Not what you said, but the way your silence forced her to speak more. Not your need for her, but the terrifying possibility that you didn't need anyone. That one thing, the emotional enigma of your presence, is what scorches itself into her memory. It overrides logic. It bypasses comparison. And here's the paradox. The Sigma male is unforgettable precisely because he never needed to be remembered. So now you have to ask yourself the question she couldn't answer. Why is the Sigma so unforgettable? Even after he disappears, is it his power, his solitude, his refusal to submit to the performance other men put on? Or is it something darker, something no one dares to name? We'll go deeper, but remember this. The average man tries to be memorable by being more, louder, nicer, richer, cleverer. But the Sigma, he carves himself into her soul by being less available, less predictable, less possessed by the need to prove his worth. And in that space he leaves behind, her mind creates a story that no man can ever compete with, because he became a mirror, and she's still staring into it, the hidden psychological mechanism behind the Sigma's unforgettable presence. There's a reason why she can't let go. It's not about what you looked like. It's not even about the things you said. It's about the emotional fingerprint you left on her nervous system. Every other man was readable, safe, predictable, familiar. They played their part. They followed the script. Chase, compliment, overtext, overexplain, ask for validation. But you were the glitch. You didn't follow the rhythm. You didn't perform. You didn't act like you were grateful to be there. You weren't rude. You weren't arrogant. You were just indifferent to the dance. And that's where the psychological fracture began. Because the feminine mind is built, designed, to solve the puzzle of masculine attention. She needs to know, what does he think of me? Why isn't he reacting like the others? Why is he so calm while I feel this chaos? She's used to being the prize, but the Sigma man shifts the dynamic entirely. Without saying a word, he communicates something devastating. I am the observer, not the player. This triggers what modern psychologists call the Zeigarnik effect, a mental loop that keeps the brain obsessing over unfinished experiences. Every time she tried to decode you and failed, every time you pulled back instead of leaning in, every time your energy shifted without explanation, she registered disruption and her mind began to loop. Why? Because the feminine craves resolution. She wants emotional closure. She wants to understand. But a Sigma male denies her that closure. Not cruelly, not manipulatively. He simply refuses to be owned emotionally. And this is the deepest terror for most women. They can't figure out if he ever truly cared, or if she just imagined the whole thing. That uncertainty is addicting. It burns, it lingers. It makes her revisit the memories at 2 a.m. like a scene from a half-dream she'll never fully wake from. She remembers the way you looked at her, not with hunger, but with evaluation. Like you were studying a storm, not seducing a girl. She remembers the way you left, not in anger, not in panic, but in absolute peace. That's what wrecked her. That you could walk away without looking back. She remembers it because it forced her to face the terrifying possibility that you were complete, with or without her. Most men build their self-worth on a woman's response. She's used to that. She knows what that looks like, feels like. But you stood across from her like a man who'd already fought his own demons and won. You didn't need her to validate you. You didn't need her to understand you. You didn't need her at all. And that truth, it left a scar, a beautiful one. Because here's the paradox Schopenhauer hinted at and Nietzsche quietly knew. The man who is most at peace with his solitude is the one most remembered by those who touched it, even briefly. You didn't offer her a dream. You didn't sell her a future. You offered her something far more dangerous. A glimpse into the life of a man who doesn't orbit the feminine, but pulls her into his gravity. That gravity? It wasn't about being flashy or impressive. It was about your stillness, your unwillingness to collapse under her emotions, your discipline, your silence, your gaze that didn't seek approval, but penetrated her soul. And even when she left, even when you walked away, she could never escape the feeling that you knew something no one else did. That maybe, just maybe, you saw her truth before she ever had to speak it. And that's unforgettable. Years will pass. She will laugh again. She will date again. She may even fall in love. But every now and then, when the night is quiet and her world feels a little too artificial, you'll return. Not in a message, not in her inbox, but in her nervous system. A song will play that reminds her of a night you didn't even speak. A man will try to flirt the way you never had to. A moment of stillness will trigger that strange, sacred tension that only you ever held. And in those moments, she'll realize you didn't give her a story, you gave her a mirror. She remembers you not because of what you did, but because you showed her a version of herself she wasn't ready to face. A woman who wanted control, but secretly craved to surrender. And the man she craved to surrender to didn't need her permission. That's the one thing she'll never forget about the Sigma male. Not the way he made her laugh, not the way he touched her, but the way he left her soul trembling in silence. Because Sigmas don't leave chaos. They leave echoes. And those echoes, they haunt a woman forever. So if you are this man or becoming him, don't apologize for your distance. Don't soften your silence. Don't explain your depth to those who've never earned the map. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be felt, once and never forgotten. If this video awakens something buried in you, drop a comment below with the words, "She remembers the silence." Subscribe if you've stopped chasing approval and started embracing your mystery. Because in a world of noise, weak performance, and desperate imitation, you are the one she remembers in the dark, and she'll never forget why.